So Philip, what would you call a valuation algorithm that was so good that when I put it to use, I lost $880 million?
I think I'd call it a Zestimate.
I'm Andrew. This is Philip. We're the Serious Brothers. We've been investing in real estate for over a decade. We've bought a couple hundred properties. And we are going to talk about Zestimates and whether they're any good or whether they're just useless garbage meant to sell, hocus pocus and fairy dust and all the rest of it. And so when you lose $880 million, you'd think it's just worthless, but that's not quite right.
No,
we're being a little facetious.
Zillow kind of made their brand off of the Zestimate and stuff, and I mean, Truly and Redfin haven't even branded their real estate estimating tools.
The Redestimate,
the Truly, whatever. It doesn't work. So they've kind of made their brand off of it. It's been super successful for them. They thought it was really good, and actually, I think it generally is pretty good. We'll get into that a little bit more.
A little bit too much.
But what they tried to do was they tried to become a market maker for real estate, like there are market makers for the stock market. I don't need to get into the details of exactly what a market maker is, but basically, it's kind of like flipping stocks, and they're trying to flip houses in the same way, where basically they would add liquidity to the real estate market by taking on houses that people wanted to move quicker so they could get their liquidity out. They'd hold the houses and then sell them at more of a market price and make that margin like market makers in the stock market do.
Bad idea.
Yeah, the reason it's the bad idea is the first stock is worth the exact same as the last stock, but no two houses are worth the exact same amount of money.
One block to the next is different. You've got the conditions are different, the year, and that's one of the issues with Zestimates in general. You have so many different factors, especially in Kansas City. Kansas City is just known for it. You go one block over, you're in a nice neighborhood, one more, you're in the hood, and then you've got issues with regards to there's properties that are split level houses.
Yeah.
You go upstairs and you go downstairs right when you walk in, and you go downstairs and about 2/3 of it is above grade, so you're just you look out the window and it's kind of the ground is kind of right about where your waist is. That's considered basement, quote unquote, according to the county. I don't know why, it's very stupid. Everyone considers it above grade. But so you've got all sorts of little issues like that. And then the condition of the property is extremely hard to garner, even from pictures. I mean, you get there and the foundation's shot. You might not see that in the pictures, or sometimes pictures can always look nicer or bigger. You got those wide-angle lenses and stuff like that.
Well, but here's the biggest problem: their algorithm could have been 99.999% effective and work well, and they still would have lost a bunch of money on it. Well, maybe not that accurate, but the thing is, if you're getting an offer on a house. You're not, if the offer is too low because, the Zestimate came in badly, you're just not going to sell to Zillow. You're going to sell to the person who gave you an accurate estimate. The 1% of houses they made a mistake with their Zestimate on, those are all, the ones this person's offering way more. We're going to sell it to Zillow. So they just bought the worst houses.
So the business strategy was garbage, not the Zestimate. The Zestimate itself, for investors or homeowners looking to buy or sell, they make the claim based on a study that they did. Their Zestimate is within 1.9% of the price of an on-market sale and 7.7% of off-market. So 1.9% if it's been listed with a real estate agent and 7.7%.
They're a little cheeky in how they get there. But
now, what's interesting is I actually looked into this a little bit deeper back in August of 2019, in the before times, before COVID.
The world was so much different.
In Jackson County, Missouri, the average sale price was $212,167. Okay, keep that in mind. There's going to be a quiz. The average. I'm sorry, that was the average list price. The average sale price. You
messed up the quiz.
I'm trying to make it more complicated, so you're paying attention. Okay, the average sale price was $208,000. It doesn't even matter. The difference is 1.9%. So the difference between the list price and the sale price is 1.9%, which just in our county, which just happens to be the exact same as the difference that they had between the list price and the sales price.
So how did they get there then?
So one of the things we listed a house for sale. And I just watched the Zestimate on this one. The Zestimate was at $83,500. This was a cheap house, and we listed it for $94,900. My analysis was they're not right, and immediately the day it was listed, the Zestimate jumped to $96,100. So it just jumped up $13,000 in a day. And I'm going to make this bold claim.
Oh wait.
That house did not.
Bold.
Yeah, bold. That house did not gain $13,000 of value in a single day. They are obviously looking at the list price very closely, and their Zestimates go with the list price, which is one of the reasons that the list price and the Zestimate tend to be about the same percent off.
And then
of
in
the
a market
sale
that
price.
was in 2019, things were generally selling pretty close to list price, maybe about 1.9% off.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it wasn't quite as hot as now, but I mean, pretty close.
So they're going to be close on their active Zestimates because it's selling close to list price.
So we had a portfolio of houses, and a portfolio of 12 houses, and I sent them to, we had them all appraised. Now, appraisers aren't perfect either. There's plenty.
So these are properties that aren't on the market.
They're not on the market, so they're off market. We're doing a refinance. And it's not perfect either. You can't say appraisal is the end all be all. I've had appraisals that I thought were a joke.
I'll talk about it.
We'll have appraisals or fake video too here coming up. The average difference between the appraisal, which I assume, which is better than nothing. It was just certainly better than an algorithm, and the Zestimate was 11%. It was to be exact. It was 11.37%.
Out of your small sample size, they were 11% off on the appraisal versus the Zestimate.
And so if you kind of assume the on market is heavily biased towards the listing price, then you got 11.37% there. They're off 7.7% according to their off market. I think you can just pretty much say that they're probably generally within 5 to 15%.
Yeah.
But that's like the more of a cookie cutter it is, the more it's like 3.2 next to 3.2 next to a 4.2 next to a 3.2.5 next to a 3.2 all built within
suburbia with all the houses.
Yeah, the endless suburbia
or condos that are right next to each other.
They're going to be right. If you got this weird, goofy house, from this farmhouse from 1897 around like a bunch of houses that were built in the 1950s, or that one that
or even just a really eclectic neighborhood or gentrifying neighborhood.
Yeah, it's just that's when it starts to break down, and so. If you're looking at, but the cookie cutters, I mean, it's kind of one of those. Those are pretty easy to comp too. If you're just looking at the MLS or Zillow, like okay, everything's.
No wonder the algorithm works better on the stuff that's easy.
Generally, my feel with the Zestimate, and it's not always the case. It's generally in the ballpark, but that is a majorly generally sort of.
Now, the thing I do want to also mention is people get in this dichotomy of like either a lot of newbies and people who aren't in real estate just kind of take the Zestimate as semi-gospel in a sense.
Yeah.
And real estate investors just say Zestimates are trash, never look at them, they're pointless. Yeah. It's a terrible attitude to have about Zestimates. They're a useful tool, and they're not the end-all be-all, and that's exactly what they should be. There's not this black and white thing.
So the way I usually use Zestimates when I'm investing is just, if I don't know an area very well, I'll look at the Zestimate. Is it even in the ballpark? Should I even bother to look at this price? Look at this property in more detail, because it's going to take some time. I got a lot of deals coming at me, and so if it's way off, that's probably a good sign.
It's just not a good time investment for you, is what the thing, because you're having so many other opportunities coming your way. Now, the thing is, and when Andrew's doing that or I'm doing that, and you get all these deals coming your way, we're going to miss some good deals by doing that because we're not putting the time investment into analyzing all of these properties or knowing areas well.
I can give you an example. We just bought a portfolio of 21 houses, and the average our price point was in the mid hundreds, and the average the Zestimates were in the low, like 135, 140 generally. But I knew that these were newer built houses, 99 built houses in an area that's surrounded by much older stuff, like not just 50s, like 20s, 1920s stuff. And there wasn't very much in that area to compare in the newer area, but with the newer stuff was selling over 200, all of it.
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot, but all of it was selling over 200. So it was like that area. I knew these properties should be compared to the newer stuff. And an appraiser would do that. Zillow is probably there's just not much here, so we'll go find what we can, and we'll make some adjustments.
Or they're not taking into account how important the newly constructed stuff is in that particular neighborhood.
Yes, and so I mean, so you can miss stuff by doing this, but if you've got a lot coming at you, sorting through the junk.
It's a tool. It's a tool to use.
It can also hurt you though, in a reverse sort of way.
Yeah, I mean, if you're trying to buy people's houses, people use the Zestimate to, especially people who aren't familiar with real estate, they're going to look at that and go, well, why are you offering 150 when my Zestimate's 180? Yeah. And they're going to say that to you. It's a real thing that is going to actually affect people's perception of what real estate is worth.
Especially since people don't, Zestimates and people generally don't value the amount of repairs that are necessary on a property that is livable. If it needs a lot of TLC and updating, it's like, just a couple thousand. No, it's a couple tens of thousands, even if it's just carpet, paint, appliances, counters. I mean, they add up. And so you have this sort of interesting, it's a concept that was popularized by George Soros, of all people. I'm not particularly fond of the man, but it's in The Alchemy of Finance, he talks about reflexivity, where the economy affects people's behavior, and then people's behavior affects the economy in turn. And so Zestimates have that same way. the Zestimate actually affects the market.
Yeah.
And this has gotten them
And
sued.
so if real estate investors ignore this completely,
Yeah.
they're missing something that's going on,
Yeah.
and it will hurt them as well. I mean, yeah, Zillow's gotten sued over this, and whether they should be or not, I'm not really the one to decide.
I don't think they should be, but at times they've taken down their Zestimate for listed proproperties.
They've changed how they do it because of this issue.
But that's just something to be aware of going
Yeah.
on. When you're talking to people, you need to be able to, if you're talking to a seller and you're trying to explain to them why their property is not worth what their Zestimate, you need to understand that is going to be a real thing in their mind.
You need to pay attention to what
you
is
have
going
to have
on
good
with
reasons
it.
as to
Yeah.
why that Zestimate is incorrect.
You need to understand what Zestimates are, what they're doing, how to explain them, how they're affecting your perception of real estate stuff, how to use it as a tool to speed up your real estate investment.
They're not useless, but they also should never, ever be relied upon.
Yeah.
And so,
especially because if you rely on Zestimates, you're going to do what Zillow did. You're going to
lose
buy the worst
$880
properties.
million.
You're only going to be the one making the mistakes that no one else is making. And so you can't use that as your tool to make your decisions with. You're just going to make, you're going to be the one person making all the mistakes.
If you want to go get a deep dive into acquisition and how to value properties and the rest, I'd highly recommend checking out a presentation I gave at the local Mary Real Estate Investor Association here in Kansas City, where I go into that in great detail. And you can check out that video right here. And please subscribe while you're at it as well.